Could do this one.
Hello, Chris.
Hello, Harvey.
Welcome to a podcast studio.
Ooh, it's fancy.
Ooh, the mic quality. Unless we fuck up something in the editing, everything should sound just beautiful.
We should sound amazing.
Today is going to be an ASMR stream. So yes, today we are going to be talking about Fallout 76.
Ooh, that's topical.
Get those views, topical views.
Fallout 76.
Okay, hang on, word before you say anything.
Oh.
1 hour timer starting in 3, 2, 1. Started.
Engage.
All right. Fallout 76. What is it, Chris? What is the point of the game? What's the plot? And then we shall deconstruct
Fallout 76, right. Fallout 76 is Bethesda's latest, most pissed off thing, most annoying thing that they've done by far.
Hype scandal of the century.
Yeah, I tuned in just after they tweeted, actually, because it hit all the news sites pretty quickly. Went on Twitch, watched it for, how long did we watch it for? A good, like, we 2.5 hours.
Yeah, at least 2 hours. Yeah,
expecting something cool to happen.
Nothing did.
I had it open. I was up until like 5 a.m. that night, but nothing. Like, eventually they put Fallout Boy into his bed.
Yeah, they had him sleep
and put duvets
for the entire night. It was such a. So it had already been going on for like a good few hours before we tuned in, I think. And so the expectation was like, oh wow, it's already been going on for a few hours, so we'll be able to like see what it's gonna be. Yeah. And then because they're live streaming, like clearly their office in reality, clearly people are gonna come on and talk to the camera, and it's gonna be like, hey, we got some preview footage of this is what it's gonna be, whatever this Bethesda hype thing is. But no, it wasn't a lead up to anything. It was just a whole day of nothing, and then they play a trailer.
Yeah.
Which they could have just released the trailer.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Our frustrations aside.
The trailer was pretty good. It was quite vague. I liked it though, in the sense that it had the traditional Fallout style. And it made me curious, because it's not going to be Fallout 5 because it's Fallout 76, which makes me either think that it's like going to be some other company that's taking over it that isn't Obsidian. Because Obsidian said that they are not involved.
They tweeted saying something like, how do you let a friend down? # it's not us. Yeah. I have this theory with companies nowadays that they're scared of doing like direct, just continuous sequels. Like you've had Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, now it's going to be Fallout 76, Fallout 5. It's just natural numbers, and then every other time they just put something different in there. Which, to be fair, I think it's a good indicator that it could be a different studio, because not having the conventional naming scheme could be an indication of some other companies working on it. But anyway, we have 57 minutes to bash out an idea of how we would design Fallout 76.
Ooh.
What are the core elements of Fallout? It's a big question.
Bethesda, listen up! You're about to get your game handed to you.
Yeah. This is. We will provide this free, Bethesda. You know, just credit our names in the start of the game, and you can have all these brilliant ideas which are about to spew forth. Fallout is a post-apocalyptic series, and it has always been and will always be. It's set in the same kind of consistent universe. The nuclear bombs dropped, and a company called Vault-Tec made all these different vaults, and here are a selection of them. And here are the stories of the ones, what went on in these ones. The interesting thing about the Fallout 76 trailer to me was that everything was absolutely pristine. There was no sign of like, something horrible went down here, some weird experiment. It was just like, hey, happy Reclamation Day, we're gonna take back the wasteland now. And apparently on the wiki, the Vault 76 was like the control vault. It was supposed to be the one where Vault-Tec didn't mess with it, they didn't put any crazy kind of human experiments in there. It was fully prepped up to actually reinstate humanity, reinstate America on the post-apocalyptic world. But it wouldn't be very Vault-Tec if that was actually the case.
Yeah. I feel like Vault-Tec will be involved somehow in
There will be something going on. I would like it to be not what you're expecting as well. So you might initially expect, okay, they say it's the control group, but really this was what the experiment was. But it would be cool if the entire game leads you on to think that. And then in the end, it's like, no, it was the control group. Humans are just so bad that they kind of, this thing they naturally couldn't live underground in a vault, trapped off from the rest of society whilst an apocalypse happened around them. They had to kind of turn on each other in some cruel, sadistic way. Can you see that?
I wouldn't be surprised. Because, well, yeah, I mean, if we go a bit like beyond what we like the actual Vault 76 and think about, you know, they have to make a game about this vault. You know, someone has to do something bad, and if Vault Tech isn't the ones to have done something bad, you know, inherently, then I could see something like a kind of commentary on the horrible human nature.
Yeah, I would like it to be very kind of humans are crap. Of course, in Fallout, it's not just humans. There are super mutants. There are
ghouls,
AI.
guys?
There are ghouls.
Ghouls.
Irradiated humans who can live forever, because that's how radiation works. And there are AI. There's robots and things. And typically as well, it won't just be the story of Vault 76. It'll be the inhabitants of Vault 76 went out into the wasteland and found something out there. And maybe those somethings came from the other vaults which were in the area. Did it tell us where it was? Like location geographically? I don't think it did.
I don't remember it saying anything specific. There might have been a hint or something towards it, but I don't remember seeing anything.
There might have been like belongings in the vault or something which hinted.
It was all quite like happy sunny day, open the blinds, sun comes through, you know, teddy bear. I don't know where they got the sun from, but you know.
Well, it could be. It's probably just artificial light, I imagine. Unless they have a fusion reactor down there which is producing natural sunlight. The previous Fallout games have taken place in the Capital Wastes. That was Fallout 3, which was Washington. Then Fallout New Vegas was obviously in Las Vegas, or in the remnants of it, the Strip. Fallout 4 was the Boston area, the Commonwealth, and the Institute, which was beneath it. So Fallout 76. I mean, my knowledge of America isn't that great, so why don't we put it in Europe?
Okay, yeah.
Austria.
Why not? Austria.
Beneath Vienna.
Fallout Österreich.
Yes. Obviously, the trailer doesn't really show that at all, because I think it was quite Americanized. But you know, we can. That was like a red herring. It was That was not Vault 76. That was propaganda about what it was. The Vault-Tec. That could have been Vault-Tec's promotional material to citizens before the apocalypse. They were like, and come live in Vault 76. It's gonna have all these amazing features that you Americans love, and we're gonna put it not in America because America's going to get nuked.
Yay!
Maybe that's the secret. Maybe Vault 76 was fine because it wasn't nuked. It was in an area of the world which was not completely wiped out.
Could very well be.
I don't know whether that's consistent with Fallout canon or not.
Maybe it's not, but you know what? This is our Fallout. We can make whatever Fallout
you know that series that you love so much? It's ours now.
Yeah,
just let go.
Accept it.
Move on. Okay, Chris. So, all right, let's bash out some core elements. What is post-apocalyptic? Blah blah blah. Vaults, other vaults, human experiments on people in those vaults.
Choices again.
Yeah, it's RPG.
Yeah. Freeform choices. Set up your guns. Choose how you want to play. Buy and sell stuff.
You sound so bored. Oh, you just play the game and you just...
Well, I'm trying to think of something that isn't for Fallout. You know, I have my reservations about Fallout.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I like Fallout. But there's something about it that I just can't, like... It's It's still one, like Fallout New Vegas is still one of my favorite games.
Yeah, as we all know, New Vegas is the best in the series anyway.
Of course, Fallout 4. I haven't played Fallout 4, but Fallout New Vegas was one of my favorites. But one of the things that has always made me sad about the game is that, I mean, obviously the story is that everything got nuked and we're in an apocalyptic wasteland.
Yeah.
But I kind of liked how in Skyrim there's pretty forests and little flies.
Everything's pretty there, isn't it? Especially in Vegas. Less so in Fallout 4. You've not played Fallout 4, but...
Is it lesser? Okay.
Yeah, there's real areas of kind of like... It's like how... I'm sure there's a million different films have done it, but the urban regrowth. Plants have kind of come back in certain areas. And, there's areas of Boston which look really nice. There's a huge radioactive sector. God, I'm burping because of all this mocha I'm drinking. Every sentence is being punctuated by kind of like, stop, burp. Jesus. Anyway, bits of it do look really nice, I think. But I know what you mean, that there's a thematic difference there, in that Elder Scrolls is very kind of like beautiful swirls, aurora borealis, like amazing sights and sounds and magic and beauty. And then Fallout is kind of like Brotherhood of Steel, rusty metal.
But I mean, to be fair, once I got past that, it's a lot better. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, you get used to that, and it's part of the whole atmosphere of the game. Is that that is a very much core element, I suppose.
Yeah. So
post-apocalyptic degradation.
Yeah. Now I want to run an idea. I've mentioned it to you.
Okay.
But Fallout 76. Sorry.
Yeah. For some reason, we have to call it 76.
I'm gonna bring in Skyrim for the last time, like the card. Okay.
I don't know. You could do Fallout 76, but Skyrim. The Dragonborn.
Basically Skyrim.
Yeah.
Skyrim with guns. Ooh.
Sounds terrible.
So Fallout 76. Skyrim has been working on a co-op. Well, some people have been working on a co-op mod for years now. We still haven't tried it, which we need to do.
We really need to do that.
Yes. But imagine, just imagine for a second.
Suspend your disbelief.
That, Fallout, obviously the guy was alone in the trailer. So for all intents, for all we know, it could be the only survivor of Vault 76 and everyone else died because they were little cardboard people. So I don't know if that's just
is the impression,
but imagine if you were able to bring, say, a friend in and play things co-op, but you, instead of playing on, so you know how choices are really important in Fallout.
Yeah,
definitely. You don't want to diminish that, because if you bring multiplayer into it, you quite often diminish the whole choices aspect. But if you then say took kind of like Borderlands, where you hop into someone else's save, rather than being all on a global server that you all join. Yeah, so a co-op in that way, with friends, going through the Fallout universe.
I feel like you took a very long time to just say, what if we made it co-op?
Co-op, but the good co-op. There's
but
bad
good co-op. Okay. It's very much, it's a risky idea, because Fallout has always been a single-player series, and like you said, you run the risk of devaluing choices. Because if you're there with your friend and you kind of notice, oh, look, isn't that silly, and you're kind of laughing away, and you're kind of mashing through story options and that's just, blah, blah, blah. Oh, wouldn't this be hilarious? Lol, let's do this. Co-op is beautiful for comedy games. Borderlands does it really well because it is silly and stupid. But then Fallout does take itself kind of seriously. And you do take it seriously because it's got some fantastic storytelling. So I am worried that a co-op might kind of, the focus would be lost. The kind of intent you get when you're playing single player games and you're completely immersed in the world. I feel like you run the risk of losing that. But that's not to say that you could do it really well. That's just that it's a risky thing to do. How could you make good co-op that doesn't detract from story?
That's a good question.
I think you sidestep it. I think one of the easiest options would be that you don't tell the story in the traditional way of you talk to people and people tell you things, because when you're in co-op you just kind of talk over them and you don't really hear what they're saying. So if you sidestep it by focusing more on a world building story. Like Elite Dangerous, you don't talk to anyone. There's a story going on in the universe, and you are people in the universe, and you have your own story because of what you do to yourself, and what you do to each other. But your experience via how the world is constructed, rather than people telling you the plot points.
So Fallout Sandbox, closer to Sandbox.
Yeah, somewhere there, but not Sandbox.
How would you do it otherwise, though? Because like in Elite Dangerous, for example, it's not Sandbox because it's an MMO. I mean, even to an extent, it is a sandbox because it has the economy that you can adjust, and you can, like, stations get destroyed. And you have to replace stations and stuff.
I'd say it is a sandbox.
But I wouldn't. If Elite Dangerous was solely a single player game, I would enjoy it significantly less. I think.
Definitely. I think
because with a single player game,
people make it interesting, don't they?
Yeah.
I suppose the problem then is that you want Fallout to also be a single player game.
Yeah.
You don't want co-op to be mandatory. And that makes it difficult.
That's tricky.
Yeah, forget my idea. Or at least forget it in like a sandbox concept.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because how excited we got when the Skyrim co-op mod came out and stuff.
But we still haven't played it.
Yeah, we haven't played it yet, so we can't make a true judgment. But people are like, oh, bring Skyrim co-op, don't port Skyrim to a potato roaster, but, make it co-op.
Skyrim now on the Nintendo 1DS.
Yeah, but would that end up detracting from the experience, you think? If Bethesda, say, took Skyrim, which as a game format, and made that co-op, and with Skyrim, the whole, like, world immersion is still very much of an aspect, similar to how Fallout is, just in a slightly different light, but it's the same thing. Do you think that would, having played Skyrim, detract from the experience if we played it together?
I think the problem, it's hard for us to judge that because we know Skyrim. And I feel like we could now go play the multiplayer mod and we'd really enjoy it. Because we're both very familiar with Skyrim. Whereas if you're coming at it as a new player who doesn't know the plot, doesn't know that they are the Dragonborn, I mean, obviously the trailers tell you that, but if you are consistent with the world, kind of consistent with the character, who doesn't know they are the Dragonborn, is it less impactful for you too are the Dragonborns?
Yeah, that's true, actually.
I mean, I quite liked it. We fooled ourselves into thinking that Destiny had done something clever with the voice acting.
Yeah.
When we were playing it, and there were two of us in the fire team together. We talked to one guy, and he's like, "Both of you need to be careful out there." And we're like, "Oh my god, it recognized there's two of us. It caters for co-op." And then it was like, "Oh no, it's actually you and your AI companion." That's who he meant by both. Because then later when we had three of us, it was still both of you. But yeah, I feel... maybe you don't need to sidestep it. Maybe everything I was saying about, like, tell it more through the world and more through the story, I reckon you could do Skyrim. If it was less about being the Dragonborn and more about, like, there are these ancient race of Dragonborns who are re-emerging into the world, and here are two, and look at what they do to this particular place that they find themselves in. Like, you, rather than having an individual who is special, have a set of people who are special, and then you can do co-op with them. I reckon you could tell that story.
If you take Vault 76, because they're already a control group, they're special by default. They are the people who are supposed to rebuild humanity.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what
There's several people.
Yeah, and was that mentioned in the trailer, or was that mentioned in? It might have been mentioned on Wikipedia, because the whole idea of the control groups was that they are supposed to come out and rebuild humanity after everything's done, like being nuked. They're
supposed to do the thing that supposedly every Vault was designed to do.
Exactly, yeah. So that lends itself naturally to a group effort.
Yeah.
So
going back to our pitch for designing Fallout 76, right? Yeah. Should we make it a game about rebuilding the wasteland? Is our main plot motivation that, hey, look, you are the control group, you actually have to do the work, we've been messing around with all these human experiments, so the world out there is pretty shit now because of it, go sort it out. Is that the main plot motivation? And then something dark happens along the way, kind of in the end of the first act, and everything gets flipped on its head, and suddenly you realise that the darkness was not out there, it was within. And you go in that kind of direction. And go very.
I think that could be really creative and like something different because it isn't a an official Fallout sequel.
Hmm.
So it doesn't have to follow I mean, it still has to be canon, obviously, but it doesn't have to follow the same kind of story arc of this is the wasteland, this is an area in the wasteland, this is their story. You know, like with the courier and then the guy her son is missing.
Did you play Fallout 3?
I briefly, not too much.
Did you? What was the story of Fallout 3? Was that you were? Oh, it was about your dad, wasn't it? Your dad had done something and then he disappeared. You were like the genetic baby, or no? No, you were just a child. I really should have researched this before coming into this podcast studio.
Oh, Fallout 3 is too old now.
All right, hang on. All right, you talk about. All right, let's move on to a different core element. Gameplay mechanics. Shooting has been a focus of Fallout since forever.
Okay.
How would you change that?
I would say, well, I mean, Fallout 4 improved the shooting mechanics massively. I really love the style of, when you aim, what's it called when you do the smart tracking thing?
VATS. It is the Vault-Tec assisted targeting system.
Yes. That is such a cool mechanic because it makes you feel like a badass. With the whole like slow motion thing. I think they've really nailed it. And, that's been in Skyrim. Not Skyrim, sorry.
VATS has been in Skyrim. You heard it first here.
No, sadly not. It's been in Fallout for ages anyway. So, I think it would be a real shame to remove that. So keep that off the bat. I don't think there's much that needs to be improved about it because I think they've balanced the attack points and stuff quite well.
I agree. I like VATS.
The shooting I think can always improve. I think every game can improve the shooting in some way.
I would like to change it up rather than just refining it further and further and further because I feel like Fallout 4 hit it. The shooting in Fallout 4 was fantastic. It felt really good. There was a decent variety of weapons, enough to be interesting. Melee wasn't great and never is great.
Still, okay.
I have a special place in my heart for a game called Chivalry, which is completely different to Fallout. It's completely irrelevant. But Chivalry is the only game where I've ever really enjoyed melee. Or melee, or however it's supposed to be said. Because you had this kind of independent control of your sword and your hips and your shoulders. And it took a little while. There's a little bit of a learning curve there. But once you kind of got to this certain point, you really felt like you had complete control over like slashing and hacking, and it was fantastic. And then you kind of went up the skill ladder further and you became completely weird and unrealistic because the meta in that game is to like bend over backwards and spin around. Like it's ridiculous, but there's kind of a point in there where you feel like you really are like a proper medieval kind of soldier. And melee has been in every Fallout game. It's always an option, but I've never actually used it to any great effect. Because it's just inferior.
Yeah,
always.
It's always been kind of a very early game in the tutorial mechanic, like slam these cockroaches.
Exactly. Yeah.
I wonder though if because Chivalry is quite complex in that way because it's all focused on the melee. Really, they've got the the arrows. And
the archers are superfluous. They're not. Yeah.
So if you take that from Chivalry. But you also want to make it accessible to Fallout users. So you don't want to have the case where... So Fallout 4 gunplay is really good. So you pull out a gun, you're like, douche, 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 douche. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, hey, I got a sword. Or whatever, a steel pipe. You pick it up from the floor and all of a sudden your body's like a freaking ragdoll. But you have to be like...
No. You tone down that, yeah.
You tone it down.
I mean, it doesn't really feel like... It's not that bad. It's... The Chivalry kind of detachment is to the point where you could put a gun in those hands and play completely normally.
Okay.
You wouldn't have to have a kind of a different mode for each attack setting. But yeah, I don't know. Melee is difficult to integrate. There's no immediate solution which really pops out at me there.
I mean, I think this the simplistic solution would be to just have, instead of having a melee weapon that you have and you can equip instead of your gun, you have it kind of like how most FPSs or Destiny or whatever does it, where I think Destiny did the swords quite well actually, because
they are cool because they kind of consume ammo in order to like propel you to your target, don't they? You kind of just jump at them and slash. Yeah.
And it has like I think a 3 attack combo at maximum, and it's got a strong attack, so like an uppercut or a dash or something. So if you had something like that where you had enough variety. you know, like Skyrim, Oblivion, even those like where the game is mostly melee, it's still terrible.
Skyrim's combat, yeah, Skyrim's combat is better than Oblivion, but still terrible.
Yeah, but like in Fallout, maybe you don't necessarily need to block. So because you're generally going to be facing enemies with, I mean, unless if they implement good melee.
Well,
then
I'll tell you where I thought you were going with this. When you were saying that rather than doing like, having like you get out a sword and stuff, with Destiny, I really enjoy shooting, and someone comes close to me suddenly, and I just melee them in the face by pressing C. And just do that kind of force thing.
Yeah.
And it's overpowered, because it can kill like most enemies in one shot.
Yeah.
And you feel like super powerful, and then you turn around and carry on shooting, right? So rather than as a secondary or a different weapon, have it so that you always have one kind of gun and a alternate melee for close range thing. But then you can change up what your alternate is. And you do that quite nicely, make it feel quite powerful. Maybe that's the way to go.
Yeah. I was actually going that way, but I got sidetracked by the cool swords. I was like,
yeah,
hey,
you went into swords,
cool.
And I was like, oh, I thought he was... No? Okay, I'll say it then. Okay, right. So we do that.
Okay.
I had a look on Wikipedia for the plot of Fallout 3, because I was kind of a bit foggy about it. For 19 years of their life, from 2258 to 2277, the player character grows up within the confines of Vault 101, alongside their father James, a doctor and a scientist who assists in the Vault's clinic. While growing up, their father comments about their deceased mother and his favourite or her favourite Bible passage, blah blah blah. And then eventually chaos kind of erupts in the Vault. James suddenly leaves, the Overseer locks everything down, and then you have to escape and try and find him. And he... You know what, we don't need to spoil it. Because I probably couldn't. There's a lot going on in this plot. So yeah, but basically that's
the principal reason.
So if you look at the previous kind of plot points, we go back to plot now. You've had Fallout 3, which is like your father did a thing and now you escape and try and find him. Fallout New Vegas was you had a job, someone killed you, go find him and ask why. Fallout 4 was you went into a vault, someone did a bad thing to you and your child, and now you go find them and ask why. Like, it's very much kind of you were wronged or something wrong happened, go find out why. And that's quite compelling, I think. Fallout 4's plot, Fallout 4 wasn't too compelling, really. Vegas was much more compelling. But following that theme kind of consistently, if Fallout 76 was just, you are the control group to rebuild the wasteland, go out there and do it, then there's no, like, personal involvement.
No.
So what would the personal involvement be?
Well, I don't know, actually, because the whole, there's a problem already with the rebuilding thing. Although it's kind of cool. If you have this, like, spin-off, which is not really a spin-off because Fallout spin-offs are never really spin-offs, that is, like, all about rebuilding the wasteland. Even if it's just in one state that they managed to rebuild it and make it pretty again. If you then go to Fallout 5,
then it's
like
back to
4 years down the line, and it's like, oh, everything is kind of broken again, even though it's a different place.
The thing is, I'm pretty sure Fallout do jump around chronologically.
Do they?
I think Vegas takes place a lot longer after everything else. I might be wrong about that. But even if they don't, you could do that. So Fallout 76 could be set 200 years after the main chronology. And then Fallout 5 could easily go back to being before that. So I don't think that's too much of a problem.
Okay.
I think maybe what you could do, because it wouldn't be as interesting if it was like, hey, we rebuilt everything and it's no longer an apocalypse, and now we have a plot which takes place in this beautiful non-apocalyptic like scenario. That wouldn't be Fallout, right? So what you do is you make it a red herring. You're like, hey, we've started the rebuild and everything's going really well, guys. And then something comes along and completely ruins it and makes an apocalypse even worse than the original, right? And then that's how you are wronged, and something personal kind of happens to your character at that point. But rather than it being the premise from the very beginning, have that be the premise like halfway through the first act. So you start off with like, hey guys, we're going to go rebuild the wasteland. You do like one mission about actually trying to improve things. And then it's like,
it all goes wrong.
Then that kind of fails along the way in some spectacular
Yeah, it's still difficult to work out how you would be personally involved in something like that, though, because the reason why people use, like, the Fallout universe uses fathers, children, wives, etc., 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 is
Easy
because
motivation.
well, exactly. Like, if a bad guy comes, say you're trying to rebuild, and a bad guy comes and like steals your baby, you're gonna be like, oh my god, I'm gonna kill you and take my baby back, right?
And I will be morally just in doing so.
Well, exactly. So
no matter how many people I kill along the way.
So now, what is if the group of players is special, whether it's multiplayer, co-op, or not? If the group of players is special from Vault 76,
what is personal?
What could
to
you
a
do
group?
that is so bad to a group that would motivate you enough to help?
Yeah,
like we're dipping into like what is the worst you could do to humans?
To humans, as a group.
Humans.
It's an interesting psychological question, really, because the first thing that jumped in my mind when you said that was, okay, an individual has a father, a group of siblings also has a father, but you don't want to necessarily make them siblings. I mean, maybe you could do co-op, 4 players max, and they're all siblings, right? So you could just rip that straight away. Then if you take it a bit less literally, a bit more metaphorically, your father figure could be the overseer of the vault. Maybe he was like a father to all of you, and then he gets murdered or something. But I think we need to go deeper and darker, really. We need to really kind of do something horrible. So how about, like, there's a whole generation of children which get turned into cyborg robots, horribly disfigured things which kill, like, everyone else from Vault 76 other than your co-op group. Just have something really, really nasty happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, that would affect, considering they're a control group, it should affect them emotionally and physically worse, because they, let's say this happens.
They're not, like, gritted,
no, they're not,
are they?
exactly.
Yeah.
So the vaults that have human experiments, even if, like, the human experiments are kind of maybe sometimes a bit hidden, people know about it, and people are kind of aware of it because they can't escape it.
Certainly by the
Whereas
end they
this
are.
happy control group wakes up with, opens his blinds, fake sunshine comes in, he's got his teddy bear, and all of a sudden someone's like mutated the children or something.
Yeah. I want to do more eerie rather than your, like, horror disfigured child, which is just like crass and just way too obvious.
Yeah.
Did you play BioShock?
I watched my cousin play BioShock.
Okay. Little Sisters and Big Daddies, right? Little Sisters are just little girls, but they're weird. They're not disfigured necessarily, but they've had, like, weird psychological like trauma done to them to like brainwash them, essentially.
Yeah.
So have that, like, have all these children one by one in the vault, right? Or in this habitat or whatever it ends up being with your wasteland reclamation project. Something starts happening to the children, but you as players, your children are fine until kind of the end, like, until something really is like wrong, and that's your personal motivation. Like the other children come and take your child in some kind of horrible, eerie scrabbling. So the plot is that someone is controlling the children, or something is going on with children, or someone has some device which just wants to kill you and hurt your children and use them for something. And then it's personal because each Vault member has a child. And each Vault member would have to have a child. Because if you're in a confined human space and it has to last for generations, then everyone needs to have children. Everyone needs to crossbreed with everyone else to have enough genetic diversity. So everyone would have children. So that would be like a unanimous kind of plot point.
And, you could actually... I know this is a weird concept, but, like, so say, you have an intro sequence or something, which you obviously need to apply to all people. You know how... what's your assistant dude called in Fallout 4? The little robot.
Oh, Codsworth.
Codsworth. Okay,
Yeah.
You know how he says your name individually?
Whoops.
Okay.
Yeah, that was really impressive. I liked that.
That's like a really cool feature. So now imagine you have that. So everyone has a baby. Let's say you and me are playing, or whatever. We both have a baby, and this baby might be. I mean, it sounds weird.
I really
but,
want
like,
to have a baby with you, Chris.
I know we can have a baby together. We don't have to have separate babies. Like, imagine randomly generating a baby. I know that sounds kind of weird,
Right.
but it'll give you. So, in your introduction sequence, you want to have some sort. If you're like, if everyone has children, you can't just be like, and you, including you can't just be like, oh, all the children are gone, let's go find the children. There has to be some sort of tie back to your own child.
Yeah.
So if you could have a system of, even if it's just like a selection of 20 different babies that you could possibly have as a child, if we'd played together as like a community trying to fix their children, or help their children somehow, that like in the intro sequence there is like an individual, a baby that is personalized to you.
Yeah.
It's a weird concept, but like, you know.
No. I mean, it makes sense to invest something in the player's engagement, because that's really important as like a plot motivator. You need to have a plot motivator, so yeah, you got to put effort into it. So yeah, some kind of personalization. You know, like all RPGs do the typical make your character adjust their brow height. How close together are their eyes? And so you could do like genetic baby design, like designer babies. How do you like your baby? Yeah. Okay. We've talked about babies a lot.
Okay.
Let's move on. What kind of core aspect of games, getting gameplay for Fallout have we not covered? We've got this idea about a plot, some kind of amalgamation of reclaiming the wasteland gone wrong, something eerie happening to children. Presumably there will be other vaults around, because that's like a common theme for all Fallout games. So we could spend time thinking about what psychological horrible thing we would do to other vaults, but let's move on to something else kind of further away. We've talked about gameplay, guns and whatnot.
What would you say is your favorite mechanic? Well, not necessarily gameplay mechanic. What is your favorite? Because I know you love Fallout.
Yeah.
What is your favorite thing amalgamated from all the Fallout games?
It's how in New Vegas the quests are so dynamic and they respond to whatever you want to do. The absolute best thing about Vegas, which they got wrong in the subsequent game, I like to use the example of one of the casinos on the Strip. I can't remember the name of it, but it might have been like the White Glove Casino or something. It's super posh, super exclusive. The people who go there are all really highest society, and they play and they wear white gloves and they're all dressed in suits and everything's lovely and clean. But you get this feeling something is off. And the writing's done so well, and the kind of whole atmosphere of everything, it really gives you this impression like, this is a bit too weird and perfect, and why are these people kind of being a bit secretive about something? And long story short, it turns out they're cannibals. Right? But the amazing thing about the quest system in Vegas is that, oh my god, you find out a group are cannibals, what do you want to do about it? There's a side plot in that casino. Bearing in mind that the casino is not at all involved in the main plot whatsoever. This is entirely a side thing. Within the casino, there's another side plot, which is that there's a big food provider guy. He sells all the Brahmin. He controls like the supply of all the Brahmin in the area, which are the cows, effectively. His son's gone missing. Put two and two together, oh my god, there's a son missing in a casino full of cannibals, they're going to eat him, right? And that's kind of obvious. But what's amazing is that from there you are completely free to do whatever you like. So if your first reaction is, oh my god, they're all cannibals, kill them with fire, you literally can go down, get a flamethrower and just murder everyone. And he'll be like, oh, why'd you do all that, if he never kind of understood what was going on. Or you could do that, then halfway through you could go to him and tell him like, hey, these people are all cannibals, I think they're going to kill your son. And then you can kill his son yourself if you like, or you can let the cannibals kill him, or you can save him, or you can replace him, like convince the cannibals to eat someone else rather than him. You can convince them to eat your companion as a substitute. You can convince them to eat, I think, some other random person. You can join them, you can be a cannibal and eat with them, and you get a perk for doing so. You can lie to the Brahmin guy, you can tell him the truth, you can mess with him and just like make fun of him. There's so many, like a million different ways of doing that quest.
Yeah.
And it works really well. And so you never feel like, oh, I've got to follow the quest. You just feel like you're in that situation and that you have a complete agency. And that's the best thing about Fallout. That is always the best thing about Fallout. It's why it's such a shame that Bethesda didn't feel inspired from Obsidian's work, it seems. Because Fallout 4 went back to being like, oh, find your son, follow the plot line. Yeah,
Yeah, that's because in Fallout 4 it's all like up, down, left, right for decisions, for like choices. And
Oh
stuff.
god, the dialogue was horrible. Yeah, it was. They didn't tell you what you were going to say. It had like up, down, left, right. Here are your 4 choices. Top one is like greeting. Right one is sarcastic comment. Bottom one is be witty. Left one is be serious.
Yeah.
And then your character says something that vaguely falls into that set of emotions. Like, it doesn't tell you what you're going to say. Whereas in New Vegas, it was all like really cleverly written dialogue.
Yeah.
And you knew exactly what you were going to say, so you knew what tone it was going to come across as, and you could really roleplay what you want it to be. Roleplay. We haven't talked about roleplay.
Roleplay. There we go. So
We haven't talked about
roleplay in Fallout 76, we wanted to have the same dynamic. Like, no question about it. We don't want it to be linear.
No.
Because
Vegas
we
did
have
it
enough
right.
of those. We have enough of those.
We don't need to try and improve on Vegas. We need to recreate Vegas, which is difficult enough.
Yeah.
Mm.
And, if this is, as we might suspect, that this is, a different studio doing it.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I wonder who it
There
would
is
be.
every possible chance that they might have a fresh take on it. So, you know, it's very possible. If they hire someone who already does linear storylines, I'm going to go to sleep and put Fallout
I mean,
away.
hey, it could be like a really good storyline, but the problem is that if you really want to be able to roleplay, you can't have one story path. That's not a role-playing game.
No. So, what do you think with the role-playing in Fallout New Vegas? If we want to take, absorb the elements from it, obviously the freedom of choice is one thing. Is there anything else with that you think is important, that you need along with the freedom? The consequences are also important. The freedom of choice goes along with the consequences. Would you say that you could just take those features and put them in a little package and put them in another game and it would automatically work?
I think it's a difficult question. One thing that was on my mind whilst you were asking that was that if you wanted to have complete freedom of choice, you could make Minecraft, right? Where you don't direct the player at all. You just put them in a sandbox and let them do their thing, and that is like the freest freedom of choice that you will ever free. But that doesn't have the same level of consequence that you were just asking about, because Vegas, it's very designed. It's a human has written these possible alternatives. It's just that they've done so many possible alternatives that they covered kind of all that you would want to do. So the problem is that you have to, A, have enough time to do all that. You have to put in enough work. B, it has to be good. Like, you have to do that well for all these alternatives and try and think of every possible alternative. And so those two things, the very kind of specific design, weigh far more than just like, should we have a load of choices? Like, you could package the idea of having a load of choices, but unless you kind of can write a good story about each one, it's not going to turn out good in the end. So I think I don't know. It's difficult. The problem is that everyone says like, oh, why didn't they make it like Vegas? Because Vegas was so difficult. It must have been so difficult to make. But then again, they made it in like a year. Like, they had, I think Bethesda had like 3 years for Fallout 4, and Obsidian had 1 year for New Vegas, and they did it.
Yeah. You know what I think with Bethesda making a game versus Obsidian making a game? Obsidian is a much smaller developer. And I am of the strong opinion that bigger game companies, Bethesda, Activision, EA, Ubisoft, spend so much, or have to spend so much time on middle management that there's not that much time. Like, if you think of 3 years of development, you're like, oh my gosh, that's ages.
But it's not development,
But
is it?
it's not development.
No.
It's planning. It's getting it through the CEO. Every change. If, in a smaller company, let's say you and I are programmers working at Hock Chris Incorporated, and you're like, oh my gosh, I've just had this. This is going to make the game awesome.
We can just
and
do
then
it.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Explain the story to me, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, that actually really works. Check in with like the director who probably sits next to us as another programmer. Like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Whoa.
Why don't you do it? So I think, with it getting outsourced to a company like Obsidian, you can achieve much more flexibility and more creativity in a smaller space of time. So I'm not entirely surprised that they managed to do it in a year.
This comes down to design by committee as well, I think.
Yeah.
In that if you get one talented individual to try and design something, then it'll either be terrible or it'll be amazing. Whereas if you get a committee to design something together and vote on every single decision, you'll end up with something that's kind of average, and it's not got the flair of an individual's kind of warped view of something. And so a design by committee, you can imagine looking at a big game like Fallout, there'll be like, someone will say like, okay, we need to have like 1 million options for every single different thing. And the committee will go, what the hell? No, that's way too much work. But we like the idea of having several choices, so let's have like, what's reasonable? Let's have like 3 choices for everything. Yeah. And then they'll be like, okay, every single like decision, we're going to give them 3 choices, and here are what the 3 choices will be. Maybe that, like, obviously that's a simplification, but it might be like between 2 and 5 choices. Whereas a company like Obsidian, I'm sure there's loads of bits in Vegas where it's like, you've got 1 choice. You can kind of do this or you can walk away. But the bits that stand out are the like, there are 1 million different choices. And so you can have that variation of levels. Yeah. You can focus on different bits of your game. I think that's the fundamental difference between large game studios and small game studios. That a large studio will produce something of really high average across the board, whereas a small studio might be pretty bad at one thing and at most things in their game, but they'll put all of their effort into like a certain thing that they are good at, and that thing will be amazing. So that's your advantage of having a small studio, I think.
Yeah, I feel like Gunplay was one of the...
Yeah, no, Gunplay was terrible. Yeah, it was awful. You couldn't really, like, you felt bad. You couldn't like run, shoot, like, you couldn't... It was very, didn't feel accurate somehow. Yeah. But they've got the thing about gunplay mechanics is that once you've like created a good gunplay mechanic, you've got it, haven't you? It's independent of the story and everything. So because it's been developed for Fallout 4, just let's make Fallout 76 in the same engine, the creation studio or whatever it was, and just, there you go, gunplay is fine, let's just rebuild assets and storyline and just leave that how it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be amazing if Bethesda gave everything they'd made with Fallout 4 to a smaller studio and said, hey, make a sequel, make Fallout 76, right? So that group then doesn't have to worry about making the vast majority of the kind of generic gunplay assets, and that they can focus on designing really good, like, unique story mechanics. That would be really cool.
Yeah, I think that, yeah. So we have Fallout 76, looks like Fallout 4, plays like Fallout 4 because the mechanics of Fallout 4 are pretty good. But you outsource it to the extent that the smaller company has a lot of time to, a lot of freedom in terms of, deciding what to do with the story, hopefully branching out, because I think it's not a secret, it's not a community secret that the fan base wants something that's more flexible.
Well, it's definitely not a secret that everyone wants another Vegas.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why they have made Fallout 76 instead of planning Fallout 5, instead of developing Fallout 5. Because Fallout 4, although it was a good game, it didn't go down too well. Even from looking, it did go down.
Yeah.
But you can tell from because I've looked at it, I've almost bought it quite a few times. And if you look at reviews and news sites and stuff, it's like, split, it's really good, but it's not New Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's very much. I always feel like Fallout 4 gets a worse rep than it deserves. Having played and having loved Vegas, I then immediately played Fallout 4, and I loved it. I thought it was really good. The story was great. Gunplay was really nice. The mechanics were really cool. I kind of got into the character a little bit. I tried to like roleplay and trying to become that person. The only thing it did worse was freedom of choice, really, and the dialogue. The writing was nowhere near as good.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was fine. It was a good game. It was better than a lot of games I've played. And like, if you go on any review site, then any like PC games like reviewing company like PC Gamer or Kotaku or whatever, they'll have like rated it really high. It's more that you get certain people who are like, but it's not Vegas.
Yeah.
So it was a good game, but it just didn't live up to people's expectations after such like a phenomenal storytelling thing. Because Fallout at its core is like a storytelling RPG.
Yeah.
So that's what people expected the focus to be on. And what they found instead was the focus on gunplay mechanics.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's a very valid step up, because you can't, even for a big company, you can't necessarily always fix everything straight away.
Yeah.
So, I think the fact that they've improved the gunplay is really good. And if you can then move on from there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, everyone viewed Fallout 4 as being this really big kind of culmination of the Fallout series. Like, it's going to be the best thing ever. It's going to be all the previous games, all the good bits all put together. But if you view it as instead as a step to our Fallout 76, then what you've done is you've got the legacy of Vegas, and you've taken the time out. Thank you, Bethesda, for working on the gunplay mechanics. We'll take them now. We'll put them into a Vegas story. Honestly, I think we both arrived at the conclusion that that the actual live stream teaser from Bethesda and everything, it was gonna be a Fallout 3 remaster. Anyway.
Yeah.
Which would have been fine. I would have liked that because I've not finished Fallout 3.
Mm-hmm.
I only played like a good couple of hours, I think, and then stopped. But yeah, we can basically design a game which is Fallout New Vegas, but with a different story.
Yeah.
And better gunplay.
Well, yeah. I mean, we want to merge Fallout. So the title of this would be Fallout. Why not? Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 76.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Why not New Vegas, but Fallout 76?
Exactly, of course. So now,
or the other way around. Why not? We'll decide. Whatever the title ends up being, you'll obviously know by now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So we have about 10 minutes left, and I want to run one more idea past you.
Because I have one thing stored up as well. So you do yours, and then we'll do mine, and then we'll try and finish.
Okay. So Kotaku has I don't know where they got it from, but when a news site says we've heard something,
yeah,
I don't know if it's true, but anyway,
okay, yeah.
If you look at Bethesda's recent sort of releasing patterns, okay, so we had Oblivion, all the Fallouts, and then Skyrim, and then now then Elder Scrolls Online happened.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
What would you do? Yeah. Well, what would you think if they suddenly came up on the June 10th, in about a week's time, and was like, we are making a Fallout MMO. Of course, decisions are going to be a lot more static, and the world will change a lot less. What will you think if they do that? Would you get it?
Scrolls Online. No, I'd hate it. I tried Elder Scrolls Online in the beta. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Because this is it goes back to the problem with making these series into co-op games, and then it just amplifies that by a million times because you have like a million other players, right? It's that they're very traditionally single player. You are the hero. You are the focus, and also so is the guy next to you and the guy next to him, and these are people you don't know. Co-op is fine because you know the people you're with, and so you feel like a bond, and like, yeah, we are the heroes, and that's great. And like Borderlands, we're going to save the world. Destiny, like, we are the fire team, we are the heroes. But you put it into an MMO concept and try and tell everyone that they are the lone survivor. That's just stupid.
Yeah.
I would like a Fallout series which didn't try to be a Fallout game. Apparently this is what Elder Scrolls Online has become. It's less of a Skyrim, but multiplayer. It's more of like, there's a world of Tamriel, and you are one of the people. But I would like it if they at least tried to make it Elite Dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, you are just a survivor in the wasteland. Try and survive and build stuff. Like, that would be a cool idea. But I think it would be way too far of a step beyond what Fallout is supposed to be.
I think it would be a massive culture shock to Fallout fans, especially.
It would. I don't think anyone wants that, really.
Yeah. Because with Elder Scrolls, it was always kind of... I think it works better, because Elder Scrolls was never that flexible. Like, you could choose in a mission whether to kill someone or run away or whatever. But, the choice, if you compare it to New Vegas, it was never there in Oblivion or Skyrim or Morrowind to an extent as well.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't played Oblivion or Morrowind. I know you've played Oblivion. But certainly in Skyrim it was like, you are the Dragonborn, you will do the Dragonborn questline eventually, you will absorb souls and be the dragon hero that everyone wants of you. And then if you happen to go play with the Assassin's Guild, then that's fine. Like, you can choose to do that. Like, your side choice there was like, which side quests do you do? Which Archmage of the universe do you end up being? Or do you end up being all of them? Like, it's...
Yeah.
Skyrim didn't do it very well. We should do an episode on Skyrim at some point, because I would like to address kind of the problem with a non-reactive world like Skyrim, where you can be the most powerful single entity in the universe, but someone will still ask you if you're upset about your sweet roll.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's stupid. Anyway, so in the last 6 minutes, you haven't played Fallout 4, but in Fallout 4 they added settlements, which I never got into, but I saw a lot of videos about them. You could basically just find scrap around. You know how every single like RPG, you walk around and you think like, oh, another iron sword. Do I need it? I'll just take it anyway. Like, oh, look at all these bits and bobs I've collected. Like Skyrim, you end up becoming over encumbered like every day because there's so much junk to pick up. In Fallout, they were like, okay, well, we know people like collecting junk. Let's try and make it useful and you can build stuff out of it. So you can build settlements. It's very much like, do your little part to make the Commonwealth a nicer place to live for the citizens, build settlements, give them turrets to defend themselves with, and then you establish your own economy. People come in, you set up trade stores and they sell things to each other, they do farming, they all are really nice and happy and they're protected from the wastelands, and you get a bit of revenue to help you along your way with the story, right? And people have built some amazing things. They have like, you can program lights and things, you can do like proper computation in it. It's almost like Redstone in Fallout, in Minecraft. But settlements, like some people love them and some people hate them. I never really got into them. But what do you think about taking it in that kind of build direction? Is that just a complete waste of time for a game which is like, when it's been at its best, it's been just like branching story, not like sit in one spot for ages building a settlement? Is there any way you could make that good?
You know, I think I've always liked the aspect, you know, whenever a game has an aspect of, here, make a place where you can store your stuff permanently, because I get really paranoid about, so you know how I think in Fallout as well, there's certain containers which are safe to put, you know, you can put things in.
No, there are.
But others aren't, and some reset at such a long time period that you might forget about it and then it disappears or something. That terrifies me. It truly terrifies. Like, whenever the games do that, and they're like, I have to go on the forums, it's like, oh, yeah, I think this one works. And I'm like, okay, well, should I put my all of my Nuka-Colas in here or not? You know. So I think there's definitely a value for that kind of base building attitude, especially in the case of rebuilding the wasteland. I think there's at least a story motivation for it.
If you are supposed to be from this vault, which like is rebuilding the wasteland, then there is a motivation for that.
The difficulty I think with that is always, you know, if you can build something how you want it, especially if it's a settlement, not just a house. Like a house I could get, maybe. You know, a house would be a lot easier, similar to Skyrim Hearthstone, where you can build a little shack in Fallout where you can keep your stuff safe, and you can maybe like rest and get some perks. Or you know, there is the Fallout hardcore mode where you have to drink water, and
exactly. I think I played Vegas on hardcore mode.
Exactly. Yeah. Now imagine if you had that, and then you could build a house, and like you can like make supplies out of like rat jerky, you know, stuff like that.
Droid rats.
I see potential for that. I think with settlements, it's a little bit more difficult because you suddenly, if you build up a settlement, and you increase the population in that settlement somehow, those people just become useless NPCs that you're like, oh my gosh, I built a settlement. You can look at it once and then you forget about it.
I think you've hit on an issue. Yeah. The problem with it is that typically when you go to a settlement in a game, it's full of story. There are people there who have lived there all their lives. There are people there who have just moved in. They each have different stories and they all interact with each other and stuff. But if you can build your own settlement, and these NPCs kind of come in, and their only purpose is just to be in that settlement, then there's no story, and it's just kind of dead and boring. And it's just people living their lives, right? So what if you could generate a procedural story generator? No, not even procedural. It wouldn't have to be procedural. Just that you have a simple story, which it just waits until you build a settlement, and then it's like, oh my god, look, there's something going on within your settlement, and try and find out what it is. And if it could kind of adapt to how you've built your settlement, say if you had like a focus on trading, then it could be a story about like someone stealing the trading supplies. That could make it more interesting.
Or, you know, because you have, if this vault, you're not alone, or, you know, if there is a group of people.
Well, if we're going co-op, then
exactly.
Other
so
people,
if there is even a group of NPCs, which you know personally, said there's like 10 of them, you can have a case where you know all these NPCs, and part of the overarching quest line is you need to provide a home for them because they have nothing to do. So you need to help them build a house, and then they all have stories because they they're given stories by the programmers, that they don't have to pop up as random NPCs in your
Yeah,
settlement.
I definitely want them to have more agency.
Yeah.
Rather than just being like, help us, chosen one, we need food.
We can't do anything.
Go collect supplies for us to build a shed, and we will stay here in the darkness until you do. Yeah, I don't want my characters to be dependent on me. That's just stupid. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, there we go.
Yes. So Harvey, you're standing in front of a board of. You're standing in front of Bethesda right now because they're listening because they don't have a good game idea. Tell me, how would you pitch this?
Hello, Bethesda. In 1 minute, I'm going to tell you how to design your new Fallout 76 game. It's no secret to all of us. It's the big elephant in the room that people like New Vegas. And I know you didn't make New Vegas, but Obsidian did, and they were a smaller studio, and for that reason they were able to kind of go in a more risky direction and focus more on certain specific elements. So, because you've come to us, we would like to take inspiration from that, but also preserve the work you've really put into Fallout 4. So we're going to take what you've given us with Fallout 4, we're going to keep the gunplay, we're going to have those beautiful polished mechanics that you've made, and we're going to inject a new lively spirit, conquering the wasteland with your friends, the other inhabitants of Vault 76. You're going to rebuild things, but then halfway along, something's going to go horribly wrong, and everything is going to turn on its head.
Whew.
And that will have the most branching story ever in gaming.
Sold.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay,
There we
so
go.
I think our time is up.
Just finished. That was
I'm
amazing.
curious. Let us know, please, if you like these microphones. If we sound any significantly different.
Yeah, it doesn't
or
make
better.
much of a difference.
Because it is a nice studio, but I don't know.
I think we're going to sound a lot better just because I haven't been trying to draw at the same time.
Yeah.
We've both been talking into the mics rather than turning around and looking at each other and stuff. So, obviously we don't know right now, but hopefully this video will have had something going on, video-wise. So we'll see. Tell us whether this format has been better than previous. And if you liked it, tell us what you liked about it. We'd like to get as much feedback as we can on this, really.
We can also do ASMR segments if you're really into that,
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Subscribe to Ripjaw ZA and HOC Gaming.
Oh my God. What the hell was that?
Thanks for watching,
Oh my
and
God.
we will see you all next time.
Bye, everyone.
Good things happen over great coffee.